Hello and welcome to coverage of Primordial Discord Tournament number 4. I'm Caillou, and today we're going to be watching the Swiss Round 1 match between Falc0rN and GM301. So it seems like GM is going to run out the turn 1 Jiraga Tree Speaker, so Rise of the Eldrazi Ram? Alright, Worldwake. All I know is that this is from original Zendikar block. And I believe that is either Worldwake or Rise of the Eldrazi's set symbol. But yeah, I do know that because of the Eldrazi Titans and other great top end cards that this format has, it could just be a straight ramp deck to some unbeatable threats essentially. Meanwhile, it looks like Falc0rN is on blue-red something. This could be, I know since Falc0rN hasn't played anything yet, this could be the blue-red control deck that Alicanto played last tournament, or it could simply be that Falc0rN is playing Jeskai Cycling maybe, and didn't have, but I feel like if you're playing Jeskai Cycling, you have good early plays. So yeah, this looks to be, this is the War of the Spark blue-red control. So it's going to Chandra's Pyrohelix, the Jiraga Tree Speaker, and GM's face. Again, this is the primordial version of Bolt the Bird. Pyrohelix the Tree Speaker. But yeah, and that was in response to GM activating the level up ability. So it would have become a 1-2. So yeah, that's the problem with these level up cards. You lose so much tempo when they get answered. And then GM trying to run a Wall of Omens. This one does resolve. Cantrips for GM, but unfortunately, again, because this doesn't have power or toughness, it's basically dead in this matchup. It doesn't have a way of putting on pressure onto Falc0rN. And tapping out Saheeli? Yeah, there's a Saheeli. So she's basically just a static win con here. I don't think you ever use her for the -2. You basically just use her as a static enchantment that generates you tokens for every removal/answer spell that you play. Another defender from GM. An Overgrown Battlement, this one also resolves. As a mana dork, this does generate 2 mana, so this seems to be I'd imagine that this in conjunction with the Wall of Omens are to stymie off aggressive decks while you ramp up. But I don't know, maybe GM's just playing straight Defender Tribal. I don't remember if there are any Defender Tribal cards in this set. And wow, the full 5. Oh my god, Falc0rN hitting the rare Sarkhan the Masterless. So since there's no threats on board, can just go for this. That gets a servo off of the Saheeli, and Sarkhan can now +1 and make Saheeli into a dragon, which can swing on GM's face. Neither of these walls have reach. Oh, but it's going to -3 instead. Just going to create a dragon token. I guess the thought is, this way, even if either Sarkhan or Saheeli is removed, you still have board value in the dragon. It does make your clock 1 turn slower, though, because Falc0rN could have swung with the Saheeli last turn and just done it. Meanwhile, GM has been missing these land drops. Yikes, still does not have a third land. Gonna play out a Stalwart Shieldbearers, and wow, this is Defender Tribal, my god. Gets all these defenders to a nice healthy 0-5. And then gonna play a Growth Spasm off of the Overgrown Battlement. That'll get GM to the third land. The problem is, though, next turn, Falc0rN just swings in for a whopping 12 and kills GM the turn after that. Oh, and a Mountain from GM. Okay, so this is 3 colors? But yeah, without reach, I don't know what GM can do versus Falc0rN's Aerial Assault. Okay, Contentious Plan from Falc0rN. Gonna proliferate on the Planeswalkers, cantrip, and gets a servo. And then is only gonna swing in with the dragon. Is not gonna +1 Sarkhan and then swing in with Saheeli. I'm not going to swing in with Sarkhan itself. I don't know why Falc0rN wouldn't do that, because GM is completely tapped out here. Did Falc0rN just forget about activating Sarkhan? Okay, activating Sarkhan's +1 main 2, and it's just going to pass. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's a mistake, especially because if Falc0rN had done that and swung in, would have been able to kill GM on Falc0rN's next turn. Now Falc0rN needs to have some way of dealing 3 damage to GM's face in addition to the 12 damage from swinging in with Sarkhan, Saheeli, and the dragon. Ooh, and this is the big defenders pay off. In response, Falc0rN is going to Ral's Outburst the Stalwart Shield Bearer. I feel like this is another mistake because the Vent Sentry can't tap this turn, and then next turn, if Falc0rN had just +1 Sarkhan, swung in with Saheeli, Dragon, Sarkhan, and then Ral's Outburst face, he would have just won. So this feels like a misplay from Falc0rN unless I'm missing something. Unless maybe Falc0rN has a second Ral's Outburst, but I'm doubtful. Okay, and then I'm going to cast the Prophetic Prism off of the Overgrown Battlement. Got to get that fixing, especially in these 3-color decks. Fixing is hard to come by in Primordial. Ooh, and has a Flame Slash, is going to kill the dragon. And yeah, now even with another Ral's Outburst, Falc0rN can't kill GM this turn. Really should have attacked with the Saheeli and the Sarkhan last turn while GM was tapped out. I really just don't understand why Falc0rN didn't do that. Okay, this time is going to +1 Sarkhan main 1. Swings in with both Saheeli and the Sarkhan for 8. GM can't block it. Goes down to 7. And so Falc0rN has GM dead next turn. Okay, he's going to play Callous Dismissal, bouncing the Vent Sentry just to be sure. He gets 2 tokens off of this, one from the Amass and one from Saheeli. But yeah, unless like GM has an answer for Sarkhan, they're basically just going to lose the game next turn. Just going to try and replay the Vent Sentry and another Prophetic Prism, but now they're tapped out. And yeah, Falc0rN's just going to +1 Sarkhan, swing in for 8, and I think GM just loses right here. And yep, there goes game 1. I think while Falc0rN did misplay there and delay how fast they could win, I guess it didn't really matter because in the end GM could not present an answer to Sarkhan, and that just completely overran GM's board. Because yeah, without reach, I don't see how GM can deal with any of these like evasive flyers. But I guess in game 2, if Sarkhan is only 1 card out of 40, so if Falc0rN fails to draw it, Saheeli's servo tokens can't get over these walls unless Saheeli gets to go super wide. And so I could see GM having the time to be able to build up a board, wait for Falc0rN to tap out, and then resolve a Vent Sentry. And then Vent Sentry can just start basically double lava spiking Falc0rN in the face each turn. So while I think this is a hard matchup for GM just because their cheap creatures don't present pressure and they need to resolve a specific card to really get going, I think that they do have some potential for winning this matchup. Okay, so getting into game 2, GM opening up with an Evolving Wilds, grabbing a forest, and then going to go straight turn 2 into an Overgrown Battlement. Once again, hoping to ramp out before Falc0rN can present reasonable answers. Falc0rN just going to immediately Callous Dismissal it, trying to get some tempo back. As long as Falc0rN can keep GM like off their pace, Falc0rN has a good chance of winning this game because they just need time to draw into their Sarkhan, essentially. GM's just going to replay the Overgrown Battlement and then pass. And a second Callous Dismissal from Falc0rN. This zombie army becomes a 2/2 and is going to swing in for 2 on GM. And Overgrown Battlement for the 3rd time is coming down. GM does miss a land drop there though. I wonder if they're playing like few lands or if they're just getting really mana screwed right here. Because I could see them playing fewer lands because of the mana dorks they have, but it would still be risky, I think. Falc0rN going to swing in with the zombie army. GM is actually just going to let it go through, I guess, out of fear of a Chandra's Pyro Helix. And here comes the other rare from Falc0rN, God Eternal Kefnet. 4/5 flyer, once again flying just really screws over Falc0rN. 5 toughness means that Flame Slash can't get this. And it basically just generates card advantage for Falc0rN right here. So I'm very skeptical about GM's ability to do anything against this, but let's see. Okay, he's going to play a Wall of Omens, try to draw into an answer right here. Okay, then going to pay 2 from the Overgrown Battlement, Prophetic Prism, cantrip again. Now has red mana notably, and can use that to cast the red one, which basically deals damage to face, whose name I absolutely cannot remember right now because it's very generic. But I don't know that even that can race faster than this Kefnet. Okay, so going to swing with the army and Kefnet. I think GM will probably block with the Wall of Omens this time because I don't think you care about losing the Wall of Omens in the same way that you care about losing your Overgrown Battlement. I was wrong. GM's just going to take all 6 of it. Okay. And then a Kasmina Enigmatic Mentor from Falc0rN, which is going to make it even harder for GM to answer the Kefnet, and also adds to Falc0rN's board. 2/2 Wizard coming down, and Falc0rN just discarding a land. Yeah, at 5 mana, you're pretty much at your top end. On end, GM's just going to crack the Evolving Wilds, grab a mountain. Okay, going to play an Overgrown Battlements number 2. Essentially only costs 1 mana because this lets Overgrown Battlement tap for another one. And then 4 mana, here it comes. Going to play Gideon Jura. Okay, and then he's going to use Gideon's -2 on the Kefnet, paying 2 for Kasmina's tax ability. So some Signs of Life for Falc0rN here can delay the Kefnet, but unfortunately all of the God Eternals are inevitable. We'll be coming back in 3 turns. Or even sooner, actually, if this Kasmina has anything to say about it. Okay, Falc0rN going to -2 Kasmina again, make another Wizard, and then draw another card, getting closer to that God Eternal. And then going to Contentious Plan, proliferate on the Kasmina, so then can Kasmina again next turn if he wants to. And more importantly, does draw cards, so does redraw the Kefnet, and can replay it. Surprised Falc0rN didn't attack with the Zombie or the Wizards, though. Okay, gonna run out of Stalwart Shield Bearer. But once again, need some sort of answer for this Kefnet. But again, there's no permanent answer for the Kefnet, and without a faster clock than it, or a way to answer it, I don't know what GM can do. Okay, Stalwart Shield Bearer is number 2. Each Overgrown Battlement now taps for a whopping 5 mana. Okay, gonna use 2 of those for another Prophetic Prism. I think maybe GM should have played the Prophetic Prism first, because Overgrown Battlement only generates green mana, so losing out on... I guess you can still Prophetic Prism to fix, but I think you definitely did want to save these. And is going to go into attack? He's going to 0 Gideon, make it a 6/6. Attacking what? Falc0rN's face or Kasmina? Also notably, going to combat means that GM will lose a 3 floated mana. And then going to finish off with a Vent Sentry. So the Vent Sentry now deals a whopping 6 damage per activation. Actually could outrace the God Eternal. But Falc0rN, I think, more than definitely has more Callous Dismissals that can bounce the Vent Sentry. Okay, so he's going to kill Kasmina, can't loot plus Wizard once again. And right now, what Falc0rN really needs is some Burn Spell, because some Burn Spell makes Falc0rN's clock go from 3 turns to 2 turns. Okay, going into combat is going to swing with everything. The ground creatures actually don't matter that much, and I almost feel like you don't want to attack with them, just so that you have blockers for Gideon in case you need them. Because otherwise next turn Falc0rN takes 6 from Vent Sentinel, 6 from Gideon, goes down to 8, and then if GM has like some surprise burn, could die. And these Wizards are just not going to get in because the Stalwart Shield Bearers can block them. So yeah, I think attacking with everything seems like a bad move. Should have just attacked with the God Eternal. But attacking like that says to me that Falc0rN is desperate to get in more damage. Probably because he does not have the burn spell he needs to make this a 2-turn clock. So I was hoping that GM would not block one of the creatures and therefore give Falc0rN the kill next turn with God Eternal. And is going to play Chandra's Pyrohelix, but on the Gideon? Again, this just feels like a really bad move from Falc0rN, because it won't kill Gideon. Okay, it has another Chandra's Pyrohelix. But at this point, unless he has Chandra's Pyrohelix number 3 in hand, why do this when you can just save one of them, attack him with God Eternal Kefnet to face next turn, and then kill GM by just shocking them in the face? Like, if that last card in hand isn't a Rawl's Outburst or Chandra's Pyrohelix, this feels like a huge punt from Falc0rN. Okay, Overgrown Battlement, number 3 for GM. These Overgrown Battlements now generate a whopping 7 mana each. So if GM has a problem, mana definitely is not one of them. Is going to Flame Slash. Does GM have the double Flame Slash for the Kefnet? Oh! Looks like GM might. Yup, has the double Flame Slash. Kefnet is going away. And now GM has a chance. Ventmaw Sentinel deals 7 damage to Falc0rN's face. And then, so now GM essentially has a 3-turn clock, which means that unless Falc0rN has some sort of cantripping, GM will be able to kill Falc0rN before Falc0rN can stabilize and get back Kefnet. And on end, gonna Prophetic Prism plus Vent Sentinel, ding Falc0rN for a whopping 7. Yeah, Falc0rN not having, just drawing a land there is pretty much the worst reality. Meanwhile, GM's also gonna pass. Falc0rN on end is gonna play a Rawl's Outburst, the last card in his hand. Again, if only he'd held up those Chandra's Pyrohelixes instead of shooting the Gideon, the Rawl's Outburst plus the Chandra's Pyrohelixes would have been able to kill GM. Now Falc0rN is going to be 1 off for the Pyrohelix, so needs to have another Rawl's Outburst to be able to kill GM over here. And Falc0rN is just going to concede, yeah. They were so close to winning, but I think that double Pyrohelix on the Gideon was the punt that let GM take that game. Okay, going into game 3, this time GM has the same start as they did before. Turn 1 Jiraga Tree Speaker. Falc0rN finally playing a turn 2 creature of their own, Erratic Visionary. I guess this way, like, I don't think that the 1/3 body will be relevant, but I think the filtering will be very useful for Falc0rN to be able to get to their bomby flying threats. Turn 2, GM is gonna level up Jiraga and then use the leveled up double green to play Overgrown Battlement. And yeah, Falc0rN has a Callous Dismissal for the Jiraga. Doesn't matter because GM was able to recoup the mana investment with the Overgrown Battlement. Is still problematic for GM's tempo. Also, now Falc0rN has a wide enough, like a wider board as well. Which, like, with every new creature that Falc0rN gets, it's a little bit more tenuous that GM can deal with them. Just because, like, the more early damage that Falc0rN can deal, the better the late game burn and the flyers are, because it forces GM to have early answers to them. Okay, it's going to replay the Jiraga Tree Speaker, and then instead of leveling it up, is just going to Wall of Omens. And also has 2 mana off the Battlement to play Prophetic Prism. This deck's mana generation is super good, and because of all the 2 mana cantrips, it can really find its threats super quickly. I almost wonder if it wants like an X spell to go, like, I don't know if the set has it, to go along with the crazy amount of mana generation. That might be too ambitious. Falc0rN is going to run out of Kasmina, and then Wizard again. Now has 3 key creatures to Falc0rN's 3, and only 2 of GM's creatures are ones that they want to block with, realistically. Maybe not even the Overgrown Battlement. So Falc0rN can definitely start getting in some beats next turn. Okay, has the Vent Sentry. And now this is where things get difficult for Falc0rN. Is going to -2 Kasmina, discarding a Callous Dismissal. I'm surprised by that, but the Kasmina's transmutation on the Vent Sentinel does make sense, because I think you do want some sort of removal for the Vent Sentinel, and Kasmina's being a permanent one rather than the temporary tempo of the Callous Dismissal does make it a lot better. And then he's going to swing in with the Zombie and the Wizard. Can only block one of them, so it's going to ping in for at least one with this zombie army. But GM is just going to take it all. What's the point of having defenders if you're not going to block with them? Because I honestly do not think that you care that much about losing your Wall of Omens to a Chandra's Pyrohelix, especially when Falc0rN only has 1 card left in hand. And damn, here's one of those big ramp threats we were talking about. Ulamog's Crusher. And yeah, if Falc0rN doesn't answer this, is going to be taking one hell of a beating each turn. Can Erratic Visionary to dig for an answer as well. Oh, but has Sarkhan the Masterless. I don't know that this does enough, though. He's going to -3 for the Dragon. With the Annihilator on the Ulamog's Crusher, like, I don't know, dog. I guess the thought is, what can happen here is Sarkhan will ping Ulamog for 1. Then you block with the Dragon, that's 5. Block with the Wizard, that's 7. And then you block with the Army, and that's a total of 8. So Falc0rN can... It's a heavy trade, but Falc0rN can kill the Ulamog's Crusher if GM attacks. They just have to nuke their own board to do so. Ouch, but GM has the Flame Slash for the dragon, so that plan is not going to be possible. So this Ulamog's Crusher is going to be able to swing in unheeded. Falc0rN's going to sack the zombie army and a mountain, and then chump the Ulamog's Crusher with the wizard. Because, yeah, I guess the main thing is Erratic Visionary is needed to potentially draw into another Kasmina's Transmutation. Stalwart Shieldbearer from GM. The only thing that GM isn't safe from is Sarkhan +1ing and then swinging for 8 with Kasmina. Because that does put GM on a, not quite a 2-turn clock, but it could be now it's a 2-turn clock with that Narset for sure. And Narset, hilariously enough, does kind of hose like the Prophetic Prism and Wall of Omens chains that GM was doing earlier. Not like in a meaningful way, but like enough that it could stymie like GM's play pattern of, okay, I have a bunch of mana, I'll just play Prophetic Prism and hope to cantrip into something else. Oh, and hits a Kasmina's Transmutation off the Narset, but doesn't have the blue mana to play it this turn. So just +1 Sarkhan, swings in with Kasmina plus Sarkhan. Erratic Visionary is probably going to chump block here. And then Falc0rN is probably going to dumpster Kasmina and a land. Or could dumpster 2 lands, honestly, and then swing in for lethal next turn. Yeah, actually, that's probably the line. You just dumpster 2 lands. As long as Sarkhan and as long as all the Planeswalkers stay alive, Falc0rN does win next turn. Oh no, but GM has another Flame Slash! We'll be able to take care of the Erratic Visionary. So now Falc0rN has nothing to chump block with. So Ulamog's Crusher can get in on the Sarkhan the Masterless. It's also going to attack with the Vent Sentinel to kill Kasmina, I assume. How ironic that Kasmina's own transmutation is what will do her in. Not attacking with the Jiraga though, which I'm kind of surprised by. I think GM might have forgotten that Jiraga does not in fact have Defender. Also, Vent Sentinel should die right there actually because of Sarkhan's ability. Oh no, it's each dragon you control deals 1 damage to that creature. Okay, and Sarkhan and Falc0rN didn't have a dragon, so unfortunate. And I guess didn't attack with the Jiraga Tree Speaker so that he could have the mana to cast Jiraga Tree Speaker 2. But yeah, Falc0rN is kind of in a pickle here. Another Vent Sentinel, an unanswered Ulamog's Crusher. Falc0rN has a removal spell for one of them but can't answer the other. Is going to -3 the Narset. Okay, and Falc0rN -3's Narset and has the double Kasmina's Transmutation for the Ulamog's Crusher and Vent Sentinel. Pretty clutch. But I don't think, I'm not certain, but I don't think that Falc0rN sacrificed permanence to the Annihilator last turn, which means that all of this is not super great in the sense of I don't know that was legal because I don't think Falc0rN sacrificed permanence last turn, unless I missed it. I don't know that it'll matter though because Falc0rN is now empty boarded, has 1 card in hand, and GM has a pretty insane board in terms of the wideness and the mana production, and can now start swinging for 5 each turn if GM starts swinging with the Jiraga Tree Speakers, which I still think that GM has forgotten that the Jiragas do not in fact have Defender. Okay, gonna play the other Narset that he got off of the first Narset. Or actually, I guess what could have happened is that once Falc0rN knew what the Crusher and the Vent Sentinel were attacking, could have just sacrificed those anyways. So that might have been what happened. Okay, he's got a Contentious Plan. Narset ticks up, Falc0rN draws another card. Unfortunately, this turn Narset will die if GM remembers that the Jiragas do not have Defender. And GM did remember it's going to attack all of except the original Tree Speaker at Narset. I don't know why. Okay, probably main 2 something. Main 2 use Jiraga to level up? That sounds about right. Oh no, it was actually meaning to attack with the Jiraga at face. Okay, so 4 at Narset, 1 at face. And now can start dealing 5 each turn, which puts Falc0rN on a 3-turn clock. And I think Falc0rN is conceding because he just drew a bunch of cards. Yeah, I think that was a bit of a hasty concession because Chandra's Pyrohelix can 2-for-1 these Kasmina's transmutationed up creatures. And Falc0rN still has God Eternal Kefnet in his deck as a win con that can also block. I think it was a bit of an early concession from Falc0rN. But still, good games to both players. In the end, though, I think Falc0rN just wasn't able to play around some of these crazy repeated threats that GM had. I think the misplay of double pyrohelixing the Gideon instead of just holding up the burn, because I guess what Falc0rN was hoping would happen is that he kills Gideon. Gideon can't -2 to kill Kefnet and then rides that to victory. But I think the burn was more inevitable than the board presence, so probably should have just held up the double pyrohelix for face. I think both of these decks are super cool. I was not expecting the Defenders deck at all. And I think this is the second top 3 deck we're seeing losing in round 1, because we saw Solzar, who piloted Black Red Pirate Aggro to a second place finish last tournament, fall round 1. And now, even though Falc0rN is not the one who piloted this deck to a third place finish last time, that was Alicanto, it's still also losing in round 1. So it feels like the meta is ever shifting. I think that's a really cool thing. Let's see how these decks do next time. And until then, this is Caillou signing out.